Tucker Carlson, host of Tucker Carlson Tonight. He has a brand new episode of Tucker Carlson Originals available now on Fox Nation, which we will get to in a minute. Promise that. But first, Tucker, your thoughts on Schiff posting to TikTok?
Well, it's perfect. But the idea that Schiff would be on the Intel Committee in the first place is crazy. But the problem is even deeper than that. What's the point of the Intel Committee? It's to provide oversight of the intel agencies. It was created in the mid-'70s after the Church Committee, after abuses at CIA and NSA came to light. And the whole point is Congress will provide some oversight. Adam Schiff has never provided any oversight of the intel community. He is its pawn, its tool. He is working out his political agenda with the help of the intelligence agencies. You are not allowed to do that as the ranking member on the House Intel Committee. The whole thing's insane, and nobody ever says that. He's doing exactly the opposite of what he's supposed to be doing.
But it's kind of historic here, Tucker, because normally each party gets to appoint their members to each committee, and so Nancy Pelosi should have taken him off the committee. She didn't, but she did take Republicans off committee. So now Kevin McCarthy says, "Well, we changed the rules. It's in my purview. I'm sorry, I can't let Swalwell and Schiff serve on this committee." Right move by McCarthy?
Well, Eric Swalwell had sex with a Chinese spy.
Exactly.
So if that's not disqualifying for a seat on the House Intel Committee, I guess nothing is. Like, why not just appoint the Chinese spy herself to the Intel Committee? It's like, it's nuts. So the idea that people with no integrity, and in Swalwell's case, a history of intimate contact with foreign spies, would even get in the door at the Intel Committee is crazy. I think it's best to just ignore their complaining. There's nothing they can do about it. They don't run the House of Representatives anymore.
Right.
Sorry.
Speaking of complaining, Swalwell's, of course, fundraising off this. He wrote in an email, part of it was Kevin McCarthy is obsessed with him. I think it's self-obsession.
That's unbelievable.
Yes, it is.
All right, Tucker, let's move on to your new original series. It's out today, Scam, Bankrupt, Fraud, The Downfall of FTX. We have a sneak peek of that. Let's take a look, and then we'll have you respond.
Sam Bankman-Fried was allowed to play by a very different set of rules because he was a member of the ruling class. He bought influence with millions of dollars of stolen money. He donated massive sums to favored left-wing charities and Democratic politicians. He cultivated the image of a philanthropist and regurgitated the established liberal orthodoxies and dogmas while preaching a new moral gospel.
A single person can potentially save thousands of their lives.
He's playing the game that he was taught to play.
Because he believes in the concept of earn to give.
Tucker, give me like a nugget that you found out about this con artist.
Well, you all cover this every day much better than we do since you're on Fox Business, but I was really stunned by how transparently fraudulent this kid was. There was nothing to back up his claims whatsoever. He was twitchy and distracted. He was on drugs. That was clear. He's playing video games in interviews. He's wearing shorts at the Aspen Institute. The whole thing was just so obviously wrong. But I just kept being stunned again and again and again by the number of people who fell for it. I mean, huge investment funds, some of the biggest in the world. The leaders of, the committees in Congress supposed to oversee banking. Probably every big financial journalist who doesn't work for Fox Business, they all fell for it. How did that happen? I mean, part of it was just plain corruption. He was paying news organizations to write nice stories about it, but part of it was just a measure of their stupidity. I don't think either of you would have fallen for this kid's shtick at gunpoint because it was just too obvious.
There's no critical thinking, and I don't mean to. There is no critical thinking, and I wrote this down. This effective altruism is the claptrap of a con. And
exactly.
And Vox has actually written an article after this. The headline is "How to Reform Effective Altruism After Sam Bankman-Fried." I have to get rich so I can give the money away.
But it's a really good point. And I love this series because you did another one on crypto. I'm a big crypto guy. I think it's a place for freedom. When our government prints money, listen, it's going to end really poorly. This is one space that you can go, Sam Bankman-Fried to the side. But what do you think about, and you're a student of history, you look at all this stuff, do you know of anybody that stole $8 billion was arrested and now sits at home in California in his parents' home, not behind bars. Do you know anyone else like this?
No. And if he'd trespassed in the Capitol with a Trump flag, he'd still be in jail, of course. And by the way, claptrap of a con is a line I wish I'd use because it's just so good. Clearly, this guy is the embodiment of our ruling class. That's why they all fell for it, because he's exactly like them. He went to the same schools, he's got the same attitudes. He speaks in the same airy, meaningless language designed to conceal rather than inform. I mean, he's everything they are, which is fraudulent. So, of course, they fell for it, right? I mean, in the same way that Stalin fell for Hitler's con. Like, two bad people can't see the badness in each other. I mean, not to compare anyone to Hitler or Stalin, but you see what I'm saying? It's like they're from the same world, kind of, and so they don't see how poisonous this kid is. And I'll say one last thing. I'm totally convinced that the failure of FTX will be used as a pretext to shut down Bitcoin or severely regulate it and replace it with central bank digital currency
100%.
Right.
that the Democratic Party can control, and if you get disobedient, you're impoverished. I believe that.
You're 100% right. I believe that's what they're trying to do here as well, that they're going to usher in, again, we're going to have a digital currency. They're now going to control what you have in your wallet. They can give it and they can take it. They can't with your $20 bill, Tucker. You can spend that $20 bill anywhere. You can buy drugs, prostitution, or a loaf of bread. But when it's a digital currency, they control it. It's a frightening frontier.
Tucker, do you think that we'll ever really get to the bottom of where all the money went in terms of the donations to all the Democrats, if it's been given back? And one thing I wanted to, because Sean brought up the bail that he's sitting at home, we still don't know. His parents guaranteed the bail, and he was released immediately. Not a penny initially put up. There are two other guarantors or sureties of that bail. It was revealed about a week ago there was $700,000 that was put up by two unknown guarantors of that bail. And his lawyers are fighting to keep them, keep that information sealed and keep it quiet. And it's just so preposterous that we can't know who put up $700,000, which, by the way, is only about 1/4% when a regular person would have to put up 10%. And this $250 million bail is just so this crooked Justice Department looks just.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't want to be cynical. I always want to be open-minded and hopeful. Jeffrey Epstein died on August 10th, 2019, 3.5 years ago. He left an estate valued at about $700 million. 3.5 years later, we have no idea where the money came from. We still don't know. Why don't we know? If you died tomorrow, if I died tomorrow, it would be forensically accounted and, the feds would know where the money came from. We don't know because he touched the lives of virtually everyone in our ruling class. And the same goes for Sam Bankman-Fried. They're so implicated in this fraud that, no, I'm sorry to say it, I don't believe we will ever get the truth.
And a lot of big people lost money, but a lot of small investors, the mom and pops, across America lost a lot of cash in FTX, and I thought Democrats care about the little guy, but I guess not. Tucker, I want to switch gears with you because Rachel and I have a podcast. It's called From the Kitchen Table. We just sat down with Rebel founder Ezra Levant, and we talked to him about the World Economic Forum. I want you to listen to this and react.
Concept of the World Economic Forum, if I had to summarize what they are, it's in two words: global citizenship. It sounds sort of nice, or it sounds generic, global citizenship. That's very broad-minded of you. No, it isn't, because it destroys national citizenship. When you're an American, when you're a Canadian, you know what your rights are, you know what your powers are, you know how to kick out your president, you know what your Constitution reserves to you. I know what it means to be a Canadian citizen. You know what it means to be an American citizen. A global citizen, well, who's the boss?
What do you make of that, Tucker? Global citizenship, is that what this World Economic Forum is all about, as well as a green revolution?
Of course. It's about centralizing power in fewer hands. I mean, the farther governance gets from you, the citizen, the less power you have and the more the people governing you have. So if it's, if the world's being administrated from Davos, Switzerland, rather than from the county seat where you live, you have less power, they have more power. I mean, it's kind of that simple. I've been around the globe a number of times. There's no such thing as global citizenship. There never will be. People's interests are parochial, they're local, they're family, radiating outward. Like, people are not that interested in other parts of the world. Why would they be? So the idea of a global citizenry is like absurd. And the only people who like that idea are the ones who are going to become more powerful if it happens.
The global elites.
I just hope we keep sending Al Gore to Davos every year.
He's the best. I've known him. I mean, I've covered him for 30 years. And he just is grumpier and less healthy looking every time I see him.
He has not gotten a regimen of anger enemas and curmudgeon colonics since he lost in 2000. Somebody needs to just sign him up for some spa treatments.
I'm stealing that too.
Tucker Carlson.
Thank you, Tucker.
You're the best.
Appreciate
Great to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you so
it.
much, Tucker. Watch Tucker Carlson Originals. And, of course, we
Tonight.
don't need to tell you to watch your show tonight.
We all watch it. It's must-see TV, Tucker.
Yes,
We love it.
absolutely.
Thank you.